So good morning. Welcome to those watching the recording. We're excited to jump in today's discussion. We'll be covering two programs, Open Airways for Schools and Kicking Asthma to better support students with asthma. So diving into some of the recent updates that we have made on lung.org, our team did revise our Parents of Children with Asthma landing page, which includes valuable resources like asthma self-management skills. So parents and caregivers can learn more about Open Airways for Schools and Kicking Asthma. We have asthma basics. We also recently launched a new interactive storybook for children ages 5 to 7 called Asthma Superstars, even a teen section. So that includes tips on managing asthma and addressing smoking issues, even a home section. So we're educating families on reducing indoor triggers for better air quality and health. And lastly, they will have access to our resource library where they can find some helpful tools and guidance. So please share this resource with parents who have concerns about their child's asthma, or maybe just wanting to seek more information to help manage it with confidence. So after reviewing this page, if you guys were to have any questions or concerns, feel free to put those in the Q&A box, or feel free to reach out to us afterwards. So as I mentioned earlier, it is Asthma Awareness Month, and we've got plenty of opportunities and resources to share with you all today. Starting with our first one, which is our Stock Asthma Mitigation in Schools, Effective Implementation Strategies and Texas Success Stories. So our team will be facilitating this webinar where you will learn more about the American Lung Association Stock Asthma Mitigation in Schools guidance, which now includes new resources and guest speakers from Texas about their successes. So this will be happening on Tuesday, May 20th at 12 p.m. Central Time. We also have our FAQ for OAS and Kicking Asthma facilitators. So basically providing key information, addressing those common challenges, and offering practical solutions to support effective asthma management for the youth. So both of these items will be linked in the chat, but also in that follow-up email as well. So I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for our guest speakers today. Super excited to have Brittany from the Houston Health Department and Megan from Capital School District here to share what they've learned and what has worked well for them while running the Open Airways for Schools program. So that being said, I will introduce Brittany. Brittany has served in the field of education for 12 years and is now a program manager for a variety of programs under the Houston Health Department. One of those programs include the Asthma Prevention and Control Program, where her team provides this education to local schools, community centers, and YMCAs. Thank you for joining us today, Brittany. Could you please share your experience with the OAS program?
Of course. Hello, happy Monday, everybody. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I hope everybody had a great weekend. So just to touch a little bit on just our experience so far. Last spring, we had about 120 students that we serviced, and we did service those students through the Houston Independent School District. So that is the largest school district here in Houston. We were able to partner with the district, and we did about 12 schools. We met with the nurses beforehand, kind of went through, the process of things and all of those great things. They were able to help assist us with, finding those target students that we needed to know, who, had asthma or things like that. And we were able to get like the consent form signed and all those great things. And then we started the programming. We also were able to continue those programs through the summer. So we were partnering with some of the community centers that we have here in Houston. And they pretty much, host summer camps, which I feel like more than just community centers, of YMCAs, all type of places. So kind of whatever you have in your local area, I would target those for like summer programming. It's a great time to kind of keep the education part going. Summer is always fun, but you're able to kind of keep the education part and give them a little bit of fun as well. We also have a healthy homes program that we do. So with those students, we tend to offer it through the sessions. And what we'll do is we'll go to those homes, those students' homes, and we'll give them different like ways to clean. So a lot of times we're using like chemical-based cleaning products because they smell good, all those great things. But we like to offer like alternatives for that. So we provide them with like a recipe that, here it's Borax and, different ways to make cleaning products than what we know. And so that's been really successful as well. We were able to do about 50 visits with that last year. And then at the conclusion of our spring sessions, we did a graduation. So on the screen, you'll see where we invited the parents out. We invited anybody at the school that wanted to come out and see our students that had completed the asthma program. So that was really fun. We made like little incentives for them. And then we did a certificate. So as you see the certificate on the screen as well. So the students were really excited about that because they felt like they, got to complete something and then they got a little prize. So that was really rewarding for us as well. And Hannah, can you go to the next slide for me?
Yes.
Okay, and so as I was mentioning, we did graduation. So this is a couple pictures that we had. We did blank out the faces just because some students we had the photo consent for, some we didn't, and so we still wanted to share with you guys just the experience. These were little bottles we made for the summer. We wrote on the tags like, congratulations, have a great summer, and then we put some little knickknacks in it just to kind of show our appreciation to the students. So we did do the 6 lessons. During those lessons, we incorporated hands-on games, incentives, like I said. We did a couple of DIY materials just to kind of make it a little bit more fun. Because as you know, when you're working with younger students, sometimes they can get a little antsy. So it's very important that you kind of provide them, with something that meets them at their level. And then, as I also mentioned, the graduation and then the token of appreciation and certificate. So far it's been really great. ALA has been very hands-on with us, and the experience has just been amazing for us. Anytime we need things, they're always available. They send us anything, we need. And so it's been a very amazing experience for me and my staff.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brittany.
Of course.
So our second guest speaker today is Megan Holdridge. Megan Holdridge is a certified school nurse at Booker T. Washington Elementary in Delaware's Capital School District. Since training as an OAS facilitator in early 2023, she has led several successful programs. Megan, we would now love to hear from you about your experience with the OAS program.
All right. Thank you so much, Hannah. So, like I was saying earlier, I am a Zoom girl and not a Teams girl, so I can't even see the slides right now. I don't know what I have done to my screen, but I believe the first picture I have is it's my adorable kiddos who are at our little kind of graduation party at the end. That we ended up having to hold it in one of our little rooms, but the smiles on their faces, most of them, some didn't want to be in the picture, but that was fine. They were so happy and they were excited. And that's really one of the things that I have so much enjoyed about, running the program is seeing the children learn and remember things and, oh, that's how I did that. And, so it's been very good. Like I said, I have run, I want to say 4 so far sessions, and I have always done small groups because it's just me that's teaching it in my building. So, lessons learned smaller is better for me because it was just one instructor. But the kids have had a lot of fun with it. I think utilizing the training that we received, you have, your script, your curriculum is a script and it's beautiful. And I use it still every time when I do one of the presentations to make sure I'm covering everything, to make sure that I'm prepared before the session. Do I have the right posters pulled out, and do I have the right supplies and things that I need? And then I think that page, that first page did show our goodie bags that we did at the end as well. And those I got, grant funded, so can't always come up with things to give kids, but it was really nice that I was able to get those from my American Lung Association coordinating partner. And they had, again, those cleaning supplies that Brittany was talking about, a spacer. So a lot of my kids did not have spacers. And so that was really wonderful that I was able to, provide them with that. And they loved it. Anytime you get a goodie bag, kids are excited. So, and then if you can go to my next slide, I can't see it, but I remember what's on there. And that is the Be Prepared slide. So I made a folder for all of my kids, and you can see them all across the window there. That was when I did too big of a group, because I think I had 12 and I was like, oh, what am I doing? But making sure that you are prepared to teach the sessions is the biggest thing. That way you're not nervous, and you feel like you know what you're doing, you're ready to go. And in those folders, I do that from the beginning. So it's got all of the student handouts that are going to go home, all the parent letters that are going to go home in the pockets of the folder. And then in the middle are the activities that they're doing, their checkoff sheet, even their certificate at the back is there so that they can kind of know what's coming, what am I going to be learning. And I keep those after each session. And then at the end, it goes home with them so their parents can see everything. But I pull out the things to go home, the parent letter and the parent handout, or the family handout to go over. I send those home after each session, but I collect their folders back. And I think that's kind of just an overview. And then I know we have some great questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you both for providing a bit of your experience and expertise around not only implementing these programs, but supporting students with asthma. So now we'll move into a panel discussion in which we have organized into key categories, because we want to make sure that we are covering every stage of implementing these programs. So our guest speakers will be sharing their insights based on their experiences, but feel free to jump in at any point with any follow-up questions you may have, ideas, to share your own experiences, especially if you've implemented one of these programs yourself. This is a collaborative session, so we would love to hear from everyone. So let's begin with our first question under program implementation. I will begin by asking Brittany, and then we'll move on to Megan. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Let's see if I can get that so that we can all see each other. All righty. So starting with our first question for Brittany, can you walk us through your initial steps that you took to implement the OAS program?
Yes. So I did, like I was talking to Megan earlier, I've been here for about a year. So when I did get here, the program was already kind of, starting off in the works. But I know that, like I said, we did meet with HISD because we actually had to go through doing like contracting, things like that, just to get the, legal permission to be on campus, things like that. We met with the nurses. We participated in open house. So that is a good place to catch a lot of parents. Because, as the school year starts, it's kind of hard to keep up or catch up with the parents. So I definitely would suggest open house if you're going to go the school route. And then from there, you kind of talk to the parents to get them to sign over the consent forms, things like that. The nurses are typically able, I would say, during the summer when they first get back, when they normally have those nurses meetings where it's just the nurses, that's also a good time to kind of target some of the nurses. Just to kind of get a feel of like who wants to participate, who's willing to do the things. Normally, like with our district, they're typically willing to let us come in and give us like a space on that to do like a presentation. So like if we're wanting to come in and say, hey, these are the things we're trying to do, how does that look and sound for you guys? Does that work for your schedule? And then sometimes they'll tell us, okay, well, we got to get with the principal or things like this, and then we'll get back to you. And so that's been a good way to kind of build rapport and build those relationships with the schools. Once we are in with the nurses and we have those parent consents, then we're able to start. And we typically try to build out our sessions at the beginning. So we'll kind of say, here's testing, so we can't do those times. So then the nurses will kind of say, here's some good times. And so we kind of just build out our 6 sessions. From there, we have had to adjust sometimes. As we know, schools are interesting. And so at times things can kind of, pop up. But overall, I think just kind of laying out that schedule in the beginning and then the expectations. So we also had like I don't want to call it a contract with the nurses, but it was like a written document that kind of laid out like, these are the things we need you to do from, A to C. And so that was very helpful so that they can go back and look and say, okay, I need to, rally up my students with asthma, things like that. And so overall, I kind of would say that was, a summary of kind of how we went through the process. The graduation, of course, we conclude that at the end. We do try to follow up with some of our students. Sometimes they move on, of course, but if not, we do try to follow up, especially with the healthy homes visits, just to kind of check in and see like any improvement, things like that. We recently created a survey as well, that we can just text straight to the parents' phones, just to kind of get like an overall like perspective of how you think that it influenced your child. Did you see any improvement? Did you see no improvement? Some things like that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the process. If anyone has any questions, I can also drop my email in the chat. If it's something you guys think about later on as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brittany. I do have a follow-up question to that.
Yes.
So what was your process for organizing the sessions and laying everything out? We tend to see this question a lot from facilitators as far as in should it be done over a week, every other day, 1 week apart? Can you just share what you did and whether you recommend this approach to other facilitators?
So I do have one of my staff members on. Um, I think she's still on, Tiani. I would love for her to share just because she does do the everyday part of it. And I feel like she would probably be able to give a better response to that. But if she's not on, I definitely I can still answer.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, good. Okay, hey everybody. My name is Tiani. So what we did when we met with the nurses, we let them plan out their schedule and provide it to us throughout for that spring semester. And of course, things did change. We would also do calls. We would call them either the day before or the day of to see if that time still works and if it needed to be rescheduled. Then we would do that. We would sometimes do 1 to 2 schools a day is what we would do. And we would kind of split them up by times. And so once they gave us their schedules, then we put them in order of what days that they gave us. And then we also sent like a confirmation email to them as well, saying, these were the times and things like that. And then how we kept up with our things was that we used Teams, the calendars. And so we used that and separated them up by schools, by lessons, how many students are supposed to be there for that day, and then how many students actually attended so that we knew, to keep up with how many students completed how many lessons and things like that. So that's how we went about and did that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
And then Hannah, did you want her to go in detail about like how did they set up as far as like the lessons, like the layouts, like the things, materials that they were going to take to the schools? Is that what you?
Yeah, you can talk more about that. I know facilitators ask, since it is like a 6-week program, should they do it over, 6 weeks? Or to shorten it a little bit, should they condense it into 3 weeks? So we often see that question as far as in what route to take.
Got you.
Okay.
So okay, go ahead.
No,
Go
you
ahead,
go ahead,
Tiana.
Brittany.
So no, I was just gonna say I feel like it really depends on the environment. So the school, whether it's the school, the summer camps, or things like that. So like when we did the schools, typically we were able to do 6 weeks. As Tiani mentioned, we did kind of run into bumps a couple times, and we might have to double up a couple times. With the summers, it was a little bit harder to do 6 weeks. So during the summer, sometimes we did find ourselves kind of combining the lessons, just because I feel like they have other things coming. So like they might be taking field trips or they might be, they're a little bit more busy in the summer. So it was kind of, I feel like seen to double up a little bit more. But Tiana, you can kind of piggyback if you have anything else to say on that part.
Yeah, so like she stated with the schools, it was really dependent on the nurses' schedules and then also how many kids they had. Sometimes we had as many as like 20, 25 students. And so those we usually try not to double up the lessons within those schools because, it's a lot of kids to handle. And then some schools we may have had like 4 kids. And so if they missed a session, then we could, I know when you go on to the next session, you do like a quick recap. But then let's say
Right.
if a child had missed a lesson and there was a smaller group, then maybe one of us, like there's usually two of us, maybe one of us will pull them aside and do like the full lesson rather than just a recap and then going into the following lesson. And then, of course, over the summer, we were dealing with like 50, 60 kids. So
Mm-hmm.
those we would have to combine, and then we would also incorporate more like games to keep
Yeah,
them
yeah.
interested and things like that, and like incentives to win games and stuff like that. So yeah, but it was just based on their scheduling, and we usually had about an hour to do each lessons.
Perfect. And I know that we received a question in the Q&A box as far as in what is the best time to hold these sessions? Again, another question that we typically hear from facilitators, like before school, a lunch and learn, after school. What were your guys' approach to this?
Since we worked in the schools, it was best to do it really based off of the nurses' schedules. So we did it based off of their scheduling. So it was usually during the school time. Maybe it may have been like, like some of the nurses, we would have to do it before lunch, or if there was like a period where they were, or it was like before recess or something like that, or after recess, we would do that. With the after with the summer programs, those we did those typically either at the end of the day, maybe like 3, 4 o'clock, or if they had things scheduled between, we would just kind of finagle in there. So maybe like noon or something like that. So it's really based on the people that you're partnering with, their schedules, and where you can fit in so that you can participate with them. So we really went based off of their scheduling.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Well, if anyone has any questions for Brittany, feel free to put those in the Q&A box, or if you want to share some of your experience as well with the OAS and Kicking Asthma program, we would love to hear from you in the chat. So Megan, we would love to hear some of your initial steps that you took to implement this program from your role as a school nurse.
Yeah, so it is a little bit different, being the nurse in the building. So in Delaware, we do have a nurse in every building, but I know across the country that's not the case. And we have district nurses that have multiple schools. So for me, I know who I have in my building, though I still, utilize my electronic health record to pull list of all my kids that have asthma, also by grade level, right? Because our building goes up to fourth grade at this point. So it's only my third and fourth graders that I could even pull for this program. So, I had to figure out what kids I had, get the consent form sent out. And then, I had to meet with my administrator and find out from their perspective, what would be the best time. We really try not to pull our students out of academic time. And so we opted in our building to use their related arts block. So it's only a 45-minute session. So that certainly limits the amount of time. And if they're late and things like that, so it limits our time.
Right.
But we went with the related arts time. And then, also around scheduling, it's hard. We have to think, I don't want to pick a Monday to do it because Mondays and Fridays, we end up at some point in a 6-week, we're going to be off on a Monday or a Friday. And I did do it once a week. Also, Fridays are fun Fridays. And so if they've earned something in gym, you don't want to have them. I had that happen, but it's Friday and I earned stuff in gym and I don't want to come to my asthma club because that's what we called it, was asthma club. And so I ran into that, and you want the kids to be engaged and want to be there. So, working out the schedule was definitely something in that initial time frame that I needed to do. Trying to think, also just getting all of the supplies together ahead of time. Like I said, I really liked having the preparation. So I had all my stuff together. Maybe not the very first time I learned that. But working with my main office staff to get all the supplies ordered, and then kind of also working with my building to let them know this is the time I'm going to be teaching. I'm not available to, handle little things, only emergencies during that time.
Yes, I was just gonna ask that question as far as in how do you manage your time assisting students in the clinic as well as teaching the OAS program? Time constraints can be a barrier sometimes, especially with school nurses that are wanting to become a facilitator in these programs.
That's absolutely true. Part of it is, if you are the only nurse in your building, you're still responsible for the whole building for medications and emergencies and injuries and things like that. So I do try to have a really good relationship with my teachers so that I can say, hey, this is when I'm doing something. Try not to send me anything. And sometimes that works. But then also having that relationship with the main office, that if they get a call, so-and-so needs a change of clothes because we had an accident, these things happen. They can, use the key to get into my office, grab a change of clothes, and don't have to pull me, out of something that is not emergent, to pull me out of something that's really, I need all that 45 minutes that I have with the kids.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Team, do we have any questions for Brittany or Megan in the Q&A box or anything worth noting in the chat?
We don't have anything additional right now, Hannah.
All right, thank you, Emily. So kind of getting into community school engagement and collaboration. Brittany, we would love to know some of your strategies to help engage students in the programs, as well as making sure that they felt comfortable in participating. I know you mentioned some of these games, so we would love to hear more about the games that you included in your teaching.
Yes. So one of the games that we did create, and I didn't think about it. I should have kind of gave you some pictures so that we could show, but that's not a problem. Like I said, I don't mind emailing out some of the things if people would like to see more. But we had red light, green light cards. So like it would have like a red, a yellow, and a green on it. And you would give them like a scenario or situation, and then it's like, okay, do you use the red for this situation? Do you use, like red, like stop, you shouldn't do anything, anything else, report to an adult or something like that. Or you're green, you're good to go. I can run outside, I can play. Yellow, I need to slow down. I need to take it a little easy today. So it kind of would give them scenarios, and then they would be able to get in groups and then hold up, which one they thought it was. Of course, we did give incentives. We used to give little erasers, just something small, something that it was like designed erasers, super cute, but super, inexpensive. We did stickers. I know a lot of times kids like to do the cool stickers on their water bottles, their different binders or tablets, things like that. So that's also something that's inexpensive. Another game we did was the steps. So the 4 steps, we would create 4 steps, and it would say like, okay, recognize your signs, and then it would say when to report to an adult, when to do this, when to do that. And so the kids would have to put it in order. So like they would be in a group, and then they would have to say, okay, first should I take my asthma medication first, or should I, recognize the signs first? And so it would kind of, should I belly breathe? Should I, and so you just kind of put it in order, and then whomever group got it right, then we would give them, like I said, a little incentive. So these are all simple things that could literally be made within the school office, anywhere. Nothing too hard, but the kids were very, very engaged in it. And like I said, even the smallest incentives, kids love incentives. They just like to get something. It doesn't matter if it's a cool pencil or pen or things like that. We even found a lot of the poppets, the little, yeah. So those were really, really cheap when you buy them in bulk. So we gave those out as incentives as well. And I mean, stress balls, like just any little thing that is colorful and cool looking. They're small kids, so they're excited to get any of it. Tiani, if I'm missing something, feel free to chime in. But yeah, I can also, like I said, send some of those things out just to kind of give people a actual visual.
Nice. And did you receive any direct feedback from students about like what helped and what didn't help?
So I do find that the belly breathing, I know when I went, I remember this one time when I went close to the end, just to kind of go out with the staff. The kids were like, oh, it was graduation, I think. And they were just like, oh, I remember my belly breathing. I remember, they were so excited about belly breathing and teaching other people how to belly breathe. And so that was one of my like most memorable like experiences. And so that always stuck with me, that they were really excited about like learning and teaching others.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Megan, what about you? What about your strategies to help engage students in the program?
So I think, the games that come with, I love that in every session, there is either a game, an activity, something, so that it's not just me, it's not lecturing, because we recognize that these are third and fourth graders and they don't want to be lectured, so I love that there's a game in everything. So that was really good. But then I think also in terms of not necessarily, well, it is part of engagement. I think, knowing who your readers are. And, we have some third graders that are not very good readers.
Yes.
And so asking for volunteers to read, who would like to read? There's some like role playing, and you have to play the part of someone, so asking the students who wants to read and not making everybody read. And then, when asking for, like, oh, what are your symptoms for your asthma? And they are giving me triggers, it's like, okay, so rather than saying, no, that's wrong, like being like, that's a great trigger. So what happens? What symptom does your body then show you? So just making sure, like, we know this, we're nurses or we're, facilitators, we know these things. So we're giving the kids new language, trigger, symptom, exacerbation, like these are big words for them. So just making sure that we're being positive and supportive so that they continue to stay engaged in the program and not feel like, oh, I didn't know it or I got it wrong. Oh, that's a great example of that. I'm thinking of this. What could you tell me about this?
Great.
Definitely.
So it sounds like you guys did a really good job of engaging students in the program. How did you guys encourage family involvement? I know, Brittany, you touched based on this a little bit, but were there any communication methods or resources that were most effective, such as newsletters, back to school night, any of those types of things? And whoever wants to answer this one first.
What was it, Hannah? I'm sorry, I didn't catch
And whoever wants to answer that one first, if you want to go ahead and answer it.
I actually had something, Megan made me think of something else when she talked about the volunteering. I really think that that's really great, just because you do run into some students sometimes that, they're embarrassed or, certain things to read. And so typically when we also had students that were a little bit more hyper, I would use those to volunteer as well. Like maybe he'll pass out papers or things like that so that it's not like they're, because sometimes they can be a little hyper and you're trying to teach the class and it's like, okay, let me give them a task. So I learned that was very helpful as well. So I just wanted to piggyback on that. As far as our parent engagement, like I said, we do participate in open house. That is definitely the best time to catch those parents. Any type of parent night. So even if they have like not the open house, but it's something else that they have where they invite the parents to go out to each class once. It's kind of like once school has kind of been going on, and so that's a good time to kind of check in with your parents, just to kind of get an idea of like, do you see any difference at home? Like I said, the surveys are really good, so we built that survey, we text it out to the parents. We haven't had as much, feedback as we wanted to, but I do think it was the timing that we sent it out. And so we do want to try that again, because I do think that texting and QR codes and all those things are now so much more, trendy. So I would definitely say those will be the, best ways, the best outlets. And then we invited them to the graduation. So we invited them out like, hey, this is what your kids did. We also sent home like a lesson overview every time we did it. We made sure we put it in the child's folder, their take home folder. And so that way the parents kind of got to see, okay, this is what my child learned today. And then at the end, it's like, hey, come out and, celebrate your child at the graduation as we celebrate them completing the asthma program.
Awesome.
I think unfortunately parent involvement is always a challenge, I think. And I really did struggle with, we sent home the parent letter every week, and the handout. And then, at the beginning of the next session, you say, okay, so who did you teach at home about belly breathing? Or who brought me their paperback that has all of their asthma medications on it? No, nobody, nothing, And so I was like, well, is it getting lost in the backpack? Are we just forgetting about it? So now that we have, a texting platform, I can attach PDFs to that. So I need to be more cognizant, and I can even schedule these things ahead of time, so I really need to start using to send something home. Like, today was asthma club and your child learned this. Here's the PDF of the letter that's in their backpack. Here's your take home assignment. Ask your child what they learned, or go over their medications with them, because I'm going to look for that next week, and maybe I'll come up with some incentives that, like, if your child brings back in that list that has their medications or has their home triggers on it, they'll get a sticker or they'll get whatever. Because I really feel like the parents, they signed up, like they said, yes, my child can do it. And they were happy to get the gift bag at the end, but I don't feel like there was a lot during the program. And I would really like to encourage that. And I would love, Brittany, to see your parent survey at the end. I think that would be really great.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Well, and again, if anybody else, other facilitators have any solutions to this of just trying to get buy-in from parents, we would love to hear from you, learn as well. Emily, do we have any questions in the Q&A box or anything in the chat?
We don't have anything right now, Hannah, but I do want to give you a heads up that we've got about 8 minutes left.
All right, thank you so much. So I just have 2 quick questions that I would love to get answered. And then for the other ones that we didn't get to, we'll make sure that Brittany and Megan get those answered in the follow-up email. But was there any follow-up set in place to help students continue managing their asthma effectively? In Megan's case, did you notice students coming in less often since joining the OAS program?
Yeah, I think, I don't have anything formal in place, though I did have 3rd graders asking when they were in 4th grade, can I do the asthma program again? Can I do asthma club again? Which was so cute. Like, it's the same program. But I do feel like they're coming in a little bit less often, which makes me think maybe they're managing their triggers a little better. But then when they do come in, I can hand them the inhaler and the spacer, and they know what to do. And I can say, okay, how long are you waiting until your next puff? Oh, 1 minute. Okay. When are you going to start to feel better? About 5 to 10 minutes. And if you don't, okay, and we can have those conversations, and I can use that language with them now that I couldn't before, and so I love that. What do you think triggered your asthma today? Oh, well, I was outside, we were running, and there's pollen today. Great. Those are great examples, so being able to, like, I'm verifying they still remember, a month later, the next year later, and so that's really nice.
So what about you, Brittany?
So I definitely agree with what Megan said. Just kind of those little small things kind of, definitely give you that reassurance, like, okay, like they were actually listening, or, and so that, and then we also gave our nurses a survey. So just from the survey, we did ask those type of questions. Hey, did you see, less visits? Did you notice these things? And so from that, I would say that's how we were able to tell, and keep up with, like, the progress, things like that. And then the same with Megan, when the kids are going to the next grade, they're still wanting to participate, and it's like, you've already done this. But I think that goes to show that the program is really working and it's really successful. So it's definitely multiple ways to kind of track that, but just, to me, those small little experiences tell a lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And one last question, real quick. What is one piece of advice that you would give to other school nurses as well as health educators when starting the OAS or Kicking Asthma programs?
My big one, I'm a scout too. Be prepared,
Yes.
Just look through the whole thing, get all of your copies made ahead of time, prepare your packets for the kids, practice in the mirror if you're not sure, give yourself grace. Like, I get better every time I do it, but I know I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to say something wrong, but every time I'm getting better, and the kids are enjoying it. So just give yourself grace and prepare yourself. That'd be my thing.
That's great advice. Definitely give yourself grace. It is a learning experience for you as well. I will say also with depending on if you have a team or not. So I noticed Megan is alone. So if you're alone, you definitely need to prepare, like, give yourself ample amount of time. If you have a team, it's important that you can kind of like assign. So like maybe delegate some things, print the DIY things, or you print the lessons, or so it's kind of a little bit more helpful when it's more than one person, especially if you have bigger groups. So I would definitely say if you are going to have big groups, split them if you're by yourself, because it can be a lot. They're young kids. So, just kind of, prepare as much as you can, have things already laid out, rehearse your things, and like Megan said, give yourself grace.
Thank you so much for answering those questions. And then for those other questions that we have, we'll make sure that Brittany and Megan answer those in the follow-up emails. Make sure your questions are in those Q&A box as well. Let me pull up my presentation again and go over the last couple of items that we have. All right, so I do want to revisit the OAS and Kicking Asthma Facilitator Resource Center, which everyone should have access as a certified facilitator. It is a one-stop shop for everything you need to implement these programs. So if you're having trouble accessing certain documents or need clarification on certain items, feel free to put those in the Q&A box or reach out to us afterwards. Okay, so we will stop the recording and take some time